We are headed to MojoFest in Dublin, the Mobile Journalism Conference, and you are part of the opening panel, which is Trust in AI and Journalism. And you have been researching for this panel for quite a while now. And I've seen you in the office go through some waves of emotion.
Right.
And I want to know, what are you thinking right now?
A lot of our customers are journalists and documentary filmmakers and documentarians. And I'm feeling nervous for that whole area of work. And I actually started researching AI when Glen Mulcahy, who's the founder of MojoFest, sent me an article about C2PA. And that was a couple years ago. And at the time we were kind of thinking about how are we going to know in the future whether something is real or not. And that's still a question, obviously, but there's many more questions that I have concerning bias in AI, like historical bias. AI is baked in all the horrible things that have happened in history, and AI doesn't at all have a way of judging things. So as humans, we can say, that was a mistake, we did it, we own it, we're never doing that again. But AI can and does take that information and serve it back to us as if it was, it's normal. MojoFest is a place where we're going to be able to speak to all sorts of journalists who are grappling with these questions. And I'm just really excited to be able to help mobilize the conversation about this super important topic. You're a documentary filmmaker. What's your experience with AI?
I mean, the reason I love documentaries so much is because of its authenticity. Like, I love humans. Like, the subtleties of who we are as people is why I love the art. In the industry, what they're talking about is three things. It's labor, ethics, and creativity. So on the one hand, like creativity, there's like some really interesting things going on. There's a new documentary about Brian Eno out where every audience, they programmed it so they took all the footage and then every audience gets a different ending.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Like the creativity, that is there. So there's discussions around that. And then there's the discussion around ethics, obviously. And so I'm thinking about now films where they're taking subjects who have already passed, who are dead, and then they're taking images of them, putting their voice on, and then hopefully taking at least things that they've actually said or written in a book or things like that. That's like, is that ethical? I don't think it is. I don't think I mean, if I had been tempted to do that as a young filmmaker, which I was at the time, gosh, I just wonder what would I have done then? Like, is it going to become normal to do that? Be like, oh, I don't have that footage, I'll create it.
Yeah. I mean, and you're an ethical person. I know you. And not everyone has a reservation about doing that. So, like, you can make Marilyn Monroe sing an Adele song now if you want, right? So my concern is this repeating of AI training generation after generation as we collect and create more and more untruths and put them out there for AI to regenerate. I'm really concerned.
Like, now that things are like so much pushing towards entertainment and like to compete in that world, like the pressures of like how to use AI in order to make things faster, that's terrifying to me.
Drama and entertainment can control how you feel, but journalism and news controls what you believe. It's so powerful in terms of everything that happens in society. And if what you believe isn't true or is generated, it's terrifying.
We've used terrifying like 3 times.
I
Let's
know.
talk to Glen. Let's ask if he's terrifying. Glen, you have trained thousands of journalists. You've been putting on MojoFest for quite a few years now. Why is the first panel about trust, AI, and journalism? And where are you at with this?
I've had a love-hate relationship with AI since I started to dip my toe in the water maybe 3-4 years ago now. And I say love hate because I go through waves, similar to what Terry referred to. I go through waves where the technologist part of me, because my entire background has been in technology and broadcast technology since I was like in my teens. But then the artist side of me, because I'm a weird hybrid that way, I'm officially a professional artist. That side is the bit that panics about the idea of creativity being automated and what that does with the way the models basically gratuitously rob people's work to train and learn. So I definitely have a love hate relationship. I've been through the cycle of fear and dread, particularly as a parent with 4 kids under the age of 13, because I genuinely wake up some days and go like, what the hell does their future look like in, 7 to 10 years? That hasn't gone away. Not going to lie. But the reason that I chose the word trust and the reason that I put AI front and center at the conference this year is that the last MojoFest that I ran, which was back in 2022, was, as with all its predecessors, very much about the creator economy, mobile content creation, journalism, and those key topics. But AI, it basically affects every single one of those disciplines right across the board. In fact, there's very little that will remain untouched by AI if it's allowed to proliferate. So I feel it's really, really important to have the conversation because I've been, in a strange, paradoxical way, I've been delivering training in AI tools for journalists now for the best part of 2 years. And that involves a lot of research, which is why sometimes I feel like I'm completely consumed with the current narrative on what's coming or where we're at. But at the same time, there's a few key takeaways, and these might be useful to share because these are learnings for me as well. The first thing is, for the vast majority of courses I've done, more than 60% of the attendees are somewhere between vaguely informed and pretty much oblivious. That's the first thing. So while I am preoccupied with it and I spend a huge amount of time on average, maybe 2 hours a day doing research and trying to stay up with the latest developments, the average person walking down the street is for the most part oblivious. They're using it because it's embedded into phones and it's all around them, but it is invisible for the most part. Those who are aware or briefed to a certain extent fall into 2 categories. There are those like me who would have a kind of a polarized opinion. And then there are the AI bros who are absolutely and utterly besotted with the concept of where it can take us and the amazing technological future that we have ahead of us and all the opportunities and all this other stuff. I've come to the position, Amy, that we are somewhere near peak hype cycle. We touched on this when we had that panel at NAB last year, which is this idea of the hype around AI is being driven by the fact that there's a massive amount of investment, like billions upon billions of investor dollars being invested in companies that are starting up with AI in their, mantra. But a huge amount of them don't actually deliver what they promise. That's the first kind of takeaway. So on the courses I've done, particularly the longer one, 3-4 days, where people are given practical exercises and either in groups or on their own, tasked with trying to achieve a specific objective within a specific time frame. You very quickly realize that there's a huge amount of hype. But when you really try to perfect the use of AI, just as general people using AI for the first time, an awful lot of the time, you might get a 5 or 6 out of 10 with people's own review of how they felt it perform at the end of that exercise. So there's a huge amount of overpromising. And that gives me a little bit of hope because I'm kind of hoping that somewhere in that mid ground between people who are oblivious and people like me who are on the fence about its true potential, that we find a way that basically says, the market, which is probably the single most important defining factor in how this goes forward, but the market approaches it with a degree of sensible caution. And I've already seen 1 or 2 cases, I've cited these on courses where AI tools have come on the market where you just watch the promo video, get a sinking feeling in your stomach and go, why would you do this? And please don't say because we can. The classic one that I showed on courses is, I won't name the brand, but a company that basically did a real-time voice cloning application where a male could speak into a virtual microphone and AI would turn that voice into a real-time female persona. And then the female persona could join a group chat on social platforms or on VR chat. Like as a parent of a 13-year-old daughter, that freaked the life out of me. You have to ask, who or why would anyone subscribe to that service? I can only think of nefarious purposes. And the really interesting thing is that the backlash from the public on that particular product encouraged the brand to cease development of it. So there is a little gem of hope. And the one thing I would say, and I think it's really important that you're having this conversation, I think it's really important we have this conversation at MojoFest, is that this can only happen. We can only have an input into the way that it develops by being aware, by sharing what we know, including our concerns, and having an open discussion about the pathway that we're potentially going on. Because I have to be honest, as someone on the opposite side of the pond, I'm looking at some of the senior, let's say, influential people in the US government right now and starting to develop serious concerns about guardrails just being obliterated and free for all development. That's not a good thing. In the broader scheme of things, that is not a good thing.
I mean, I think my team here at LumaTouch would say I'm anti-AI. But what I noticed, AI never tells you, I don't know. You know, it'll just say, if I don't have enough information, I know you want an answer, so I'm going to make up an answer. When you give it a too broad of a topic, that can be a problem. Like if I just say, generate an image of a nurse, it may not, that's just not enough detail for a prompt. And so it can come up with some very weird things, highly biased. But in fact, if you say, generate an image of a nurse in a different language, if you say that sentence in German, you can get some very bizarre results. And what scared me was that I'd generate these bizarre results and I'd be like, oh, that was fun. I got a hit of what felt very similar to the feeling I get when I'm creative. And it kind of stunned me that I was feeling a good feeling from just writing, generate an image of a nurse in a different language. That's like, this is insane. That is not creativity. That's just me typing a random prompt, you know, but it still gave me the adrenaline or the kind of oxytocin of being creative. And I stopped myself right there and thought, I need to really be aware of what just happened here. I didn't do anything. To me, creativity is me personally. I have a variety of experiences that I draw from. And so when I'm thinking about something, I'm going to draw from those experiences. And then there's another step, the step of translating those experiences into a way of communicating, whether that's through paint or through words or through editing or through storytelling, whatever it is, that's the process of creativity. And when I experience that and when I do that, the feeling is so much grander than what I feel from generating that image. I just recognized it in there somewhere. You know, people that don't practice creativity, like we have to practice creativity every day because of our jobs. That's what we do. We're editors, right? And so it's baked into our everyday lives. Like it's a happy place to be, right? But people that aren't sort of in the job of being creative are getting these feelings of creativity, and I'm worried that that's gonna just overshadow, like people won't even know what it was like in 10 years, like that will be what it is. And that just makes me sad.
Less work plus adrenaline. That's not a great combination for humans. I think we know that. We love that.
Like, it's like, you know, like we have to be aware that there are people telling stories and getting this intense joy from that. I feel a loss so that I appear to be anti-AI. I'm actually anti-loss of creativity and loss of truth.
We creatives crave creativity. So, I mean, I think that's what we're going to investigate, right? At MojoFest, we're going to ask the attendees, why do you create?
I think that's going to be a really interesting angle because of the mix of other panelists that we're basically going to have on that particular session. One of whom comes from a strong journalism background. Well, actually, two of them really do. And one from academia as well. So I think everyone is going to have a very interesting take on it. Some of them also, like me, have had that kind of love-hate relationship where some of it has been gross reservations and ethical and moral kind of challenges. And at the same time, just like Terri, you get that little buzz when you generate a really cool image. Like I can only use the word spewing out AI generated images to try and trigger discussion on the MojoFest social channels. I've only been called out on it once so far. Does that mean that I'm either doing a really bad job or that people are far more accepting of it than I had hoped? I don't know yet, but I do want to have that chat. And also the thing is, between now and MojoFest, which is about 4 weeks away at this stage, there will be more developments. I mean, OpenAI may drop AGI between now and then. It certainly is starting to lean into the suggestion that may well be the case. So it's a very, very topical discussion. I'm going to circle back to the trust topic, though. And Terry, you're absolutely right. That is the single point of concern for me. Like with a lot of the journalists that I teach, the thing I'm trying to reiterate for all of them, like we've known for years because of social media that fake news, whether that's intentional or otherwise, spreads 7 to 10 times faster than the truth. But there's just so many conversations that need to happen around this that I feel genuinely, are not really being approached yet.
I think Mogadot said, if you look at AI, you're going to have 3 bad nights of sleep. And it really did turn into 3 months and then more for me. Like I haven't slept well since I started this thing.
That's on me. My apologies about that. 100% to blame. Sorry about that.
I have a dartboard with your face on it.
Okay, you're not the only person, Terry, but yeah, that's okay. But I mean, I share that concern. Genuinely, I do,
Well, if people are interested, maybe we shouldn't sell it like you might lose sleep, but I think people are going to be pretty excited.
And let me just frame it in the sense that like it's not all doom and gloom at all. When some of the speakers were pitching their sessions to me, like I literally kind of went, "Oh hell, okay, I never thought of that use case. That's really interesting." So there really are some eye-opening use cases, and they are creative and they are productive and they genuinely have value. It's not just the dopamine hit stuff, which I think is really important. There's a load of AI fan base conferences springing up. There's AI film festivals springing up all over the place. But I think somewhere we need to have some actual ethical conversations around where the hell we're going. I'm not too sure there's too many of those.